Welcome everyone. Introductions to workplace harassment. We will be talking about all sorts of harassment that actually takes place in our workplace areas. So, what is the agenda that we need to cover out? First, we need to understand what is harassment, what is non-sexual harassment, what is bullying, and the differences thereby. That is needs to be understood. Now, can we prevent harassment at workplace by developing a clear understanding of what is accepted and what is not? Why can we prevent harassment by educating the right way of conducting oneself in an organization? Can we explore the responsibilities of each employee to maintain an environment free from harassment by being aware of the behavior that can offend others and by clearly communicating the offensive behaviors that must come to an end? Is it the policy of zero tolerance for any types of harassment in workplace? Promote respect, values for one another, as the case might be. Understand the laws, Title 7 civil rights, as the case might come around. So, what are the negative impacts of harassment in workplace? Let us understand what does does it have positive impact? Probably, absolutely, and clearly zero. But there are plentiful of negative impacts. So let us understand those negative impact one by one. So can we go around with clicking on this harassment quiz as the case might be? So which is one word to describe sexual harassment? If this is one, if I'm supposed to put it across to the audiences would say sexual harassment is somewhere you are touching somebody inappropriately, sharing uh, sharing sexual jokes probably, or probably any unwanted behavior, acts, messages that can be displayed which is basically offending the other person. Probably one word if you have to go around it, and people would die to come up with one word. Is it harassment? Is it things? The one word remains is power. Anything and everything with sexual harassment is all about abuses of power. Remember, when there's a sexual joke, for example, if I'm telling it to you, is being shared among friends and perfectly it is not offending any of the persons around in the group of friends, probably it is acceptable. But when it is done with a different hierarchy, on a different position, on a different level, on different responsibilities, now there is a shift in power, and you might not enjoy the joke. Probably you got to toe the line because that's the only way to stick to your job or get a promotion, and that is the abuse of power. Sexual harassment is all about power, it is all about dominance. So we need to understand why victim does not speak out, utter the fact that they are not liking what is happening around it. Fear of loss of job. Did I say about power? Yes, probably. Fear about the being the fodder of the rumor mill, as in whatever is going to the gossip in the offices will be happening in and around you. Not being believed, of being wrong, rejections from co-workers, and retaliation. Retaliation can be severe and can be very threatening, and probably it can shatters one's confidence altogether. So there are plentiful of fears for which people don't actually speak up. Then we can be accused of not having a sense of humor. Probably the joke might be taken in a non-offensive way, being labeled as troublemaker, feminist, overly sensitive, and mentally unstable, as the case might come across it. So, being labeled as troublemakers, feminist, overly sensitive, and mentally unstable. Now, EEOC, what does it terms around it? Equal employment opportunity. Company's definition would be all about the sexual harassment is unwelcome sexual advances, request for sexual favors, verbal or physical conduct of sexual natures, connectedness to decisions about employment, and intimidating, hostile, or offensive work environment, as the case might be. Now, these are essential part of your sexual harassment. Unwelcome sexual advances, request for favors, sexual favors, I'm talking about it, verbal or physical conduct of sexual natures, and intimidating or hostile offensive work environment. So, what kind of sexual harassment? There are basically, I find only two types of sexual harassment. One that is quid pro quo, as in eye for an eye, or this for that. You do me this, I will do it that. And the hostile work environment, where it becomes very difficult for a person to work upon. Probably this hostile work environment is not directly somebody's threatening, probably making a person life unbearable, uncomfortable to work within that workspace. So quid pro, this for that. The definition is as simple as it. The employment decisions are or expectation is based on employee willingness to grant or probably deny sexual favors thereby. If you are not providing sexual favors, probably you are not going to get into the job or be into the job for a longer period of time. That needs to be understood time and again. So yes, we are talking this for that. So a supervisor will say to his or her junior about some kind of favors which is sexual in nature, and probably based whether it has been granted, based whether it has been denied, the promotional revenues, the stringent punishment, the stringent work condition might be either removed or imposed. So example of this for that or quid pro quo, as the case might be, demanding sexual favors in exchange of promotion or perhaps a raise. Discipline or firing a subordinate who ends up a romantic relationships. Changing performances expectation after a subordinate refuses or probably repeated request for a date, something wherein you look into around it. So this is what quid pro quo is all about. It this for that, you do this for me, I will do that for you. It's like you scratch my back and I'll scratch your back. So whether whether you like my scratching your back is something which is not even asked, but I want you to scratch my back. In return, I will do a favor back to you. So that is what is all about quid pro quo is. Now, definition for hostile work environment and how do we go assess with it. So it can be verbal, it can be non-verbal behaviors that focuses just plainly on the sexualities of another person or his or her gender. Sexual harassment, I'm talking about it, are unwanted or unwelcome sexual harassment or the harassers, as the case can be. So yes, we are talking about sexuality of another person, we are talking about unwelcome gestures that been severely put forward, severe or pervasive enough to affect the person workspace. Sexual harassers and harassment, as the case might be looking into, is the hostile work environment. So, example of hostile work environment, HWE, as the case might be, are offensive conduct. People might be filthy when they speak about filthy. People might be filthy when the way they act around. People might be filthy the way they put forward their cases and behaviors around it. So, offensive conduct, offensive behavior, offensive language, offensive graphics, and obviously, dating and relationship is only a murky cover to it, may follow around it. So these are the hostile work environment things. Hostile workplace are intimidating, are offensive, are not attractive at all. In fact, it is very demeaning, to be very precise. Now, let us understand what are the important facts of sexual harassment. What are those? First, it generally occurs where there is a disparity of power. Did I say about supervisor and the subordinate or the manager and the supervisor? It cannot be among between supervisor and supervisor on the same level of employees, because there the employee can retort back, probably because there are nothing called quid pro quo case scenario there. So generally occurs when there is a disparity of power, not just when men and women are working together. Does not have to be intentional. Absolutely, yes. It can be innocent also, but people might get offensive. What is offensive is in the eye of the beholder. It remains, this is when you need to understand. It is the way the people perceive things. It's the eye of the beholder which tells you whether things are good, fair enough, or not. So men can be sexually harassed too. It's the popular syndrome is the men are only the part of the harasser. They can be harassed and they can be victim. Men can harass men, women can harass women, irrespective of gender. Men can harass women and women can harass men too. Harassment does not have a particular to be directed to a particular individual. So it does not have to be directed at a particular individual. Offenders can be supervisors, co-workers, non-employees, customers, vendors, suppliers, and it can be anybody. Remember, offenders are not the victims; they are the abusers altogether, and they can be anybody and everybody for them. Remember, situation must be both offensive, distasteful, and sexual to be a sexual harassment. Absolutely. Filthy in nature. So situation has to be offensive and sexual to be a sexual harassment case scenario. So it can be a workplace bullying. Let us say, what does it look like? Apart from sexual harassment, there is something called bullying factor, right? So let us see, is it an harassment? Yes, definitely it is an harassment. Which gives a mental agony is an harassment. Absolutely. Which gives an emotional instability is an harassment. So bullying is direct, maybe may not be direct also, but usually it is direct, such as severe verbal abuse, or indirect, such as spreading rumors or lies. Cyberbullying is just as serious. Internet or cyberbullying might include sharing inappropriate pictures of someone, posing as someone else to spread rumors or lies, or sending harassing messages and abusive emails thereby. So bullying can be anything and everything thereby. So social media, using social media, that is Facebook, to bully others at work, even if not written on workplace properly, is considered bullying then and there. This needs to be understood often, more often than not. Let me give you certain signs of bullying altogether. Being left out from work related social event, obviously that's an bullying. You are not invited to the after work party probably. Co-workers storming out of the work areas when you enter, probably this is something where there is a sense of non-cooperation which has been showing or seen. Been given the silent treatment, people don't reacting stop reacting to it. Not been given the praise you thought you deserved, absolutely yes. Being treated rudely or disrespectfully, as the case might be, treating rudely or disrespectfully, others responding slowly to requests that were important to you. Absolutely, yes. So, being yelled or shouted at, receiving put downs about your intelligences or perhaps your competences thereby. We are talking about your telephone calls, your contribution, your communication are often been ignored, your complaints, your requests are often been neglected altogether. Someone interferes with or sabotages your work as on when on basis. Being given little or no feedback about your performances, thereby being the recipient of the mean pranks. As you go, we report it out. So, in your role, remember always report promptly anything and everything that is inappropriate or bullying behavior to your managers, if not your managers, to the HR department. Absolutely, yes, reporting is must. So, workplace violence. Let us, we have spoken about the sexual harassment, we have spoken about bullying. Let us now try to address workplace violence. Violence or threat of violence against worker. It can occur in outside the organization, in or outside the organization, and can range from threats and verbal abuse to physical assaults and homicide. One of the leading causes of job related deaths. Workplace violence is growing concerns from employers and employees nationwide. Report concerns to managers, human resources, or security, as the case might be. These are the things that needs to be taken into account every moment then and there. So let us come to see the red flags and understand what is accepted and what is not. Obsession with or discussion of weapons, intimating or instilling fears in others, making direct or veiled threats, showing little involvement with coworkers, displaying unwanted romantic interest in coworkers, exhibiting paranoid behaviors, being unacceptable of criticism and holding a grudge, having recent serious family, financial, social, legal issues, testing the limits of unacceptable behavior, retaliation by employees who feel that they have been bullied per se. Now, these are the red flags that needs to be notified to everybody, and probably you will understand. Yes, there is a sense of violence or violent attitude within the workplace, be it threatening, be it discussion of weapons, be it discussion of kind of veiled threats or unwanted, unromantic interest in a co-workers. absolutely being paranoid, absolutely not being cooperative, absolutely things that are not accepted by any chance, be it within the formal environment or informal environment. Remember, violence, workplace violence may be there within the premises of the organization or outside the premises of the organization. But if it is outside the premises, it's the co-workers who are having it. It's the people who are working for the organizations are being the main actors in that scenario. With this, I come to an end of this particular presentation. Thank you for watching this video till the very end.